If you get knocked down, you stand up and you try again. You might try differently. When you're facing terrain like that, you just do it. You look at the mountain in front of you and you begin to climb. You don't judge it. If you judge it, then you're playing the referee and the game's down the field, right? You can cry foul, but you won't be in the game. And you have to find the way to your ambition, and you have to allow yourself to do more than one thing. Who says that we should make a decision when we're 20 and that's what we should be doing when we're 50, right? This book is about friendship and survival and betrayal. It's about standing up when they pass you by and saying, I won't quit, when they want you to quit. But it's also about how some of those women become very much like the monsters they worked for. Fiction is the lie through which we tell the truth.
Welcome to Open Book. I am your host, Anthony Scaramucci. Very happy to be joined by Elaine Goldsmith-Thomas. The title of the book is Climbing in Heels. And this is a novel. And Elaine, of course, is a Hollywood agent. She's turned producer and now author. But man, is this a great book. You know what? This is my era. This is the problem with this book. This is my era. Elaine, it's good to have you on. Before we get into the book, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you make your way to Hollywood and writing and all this fun stuff that you're doing?
Oh gosh, I think I've always been a writer. And there's no straight line in careers. I think the secret to any career, Anthony, you would probably back this up, is the ability to pivot, to go one way and then go, oh fuck, that's not working. Oops, sorry, I don't know. Am I allowed to say that? And turn around and find another way.
I mean, you're on Anthony Scaramucci's podcast. You're allowed to curse.
There you go. Thank you.
That's what we do.
Well, in that case, yes.
Right.
I was born in LA. I was born in the San Fernando Valley. I was born in Pacoima. My mother called it Arleta. Then we moved to Sepulveda, and my mother called it Northridge. I never really knew where I lived. I just knew it wasn't good enough for my mother. But I also knew that image was more important than truth. And I watched how she sort of nudged our reality to become her truth, or her truth to become our reality, right? So um, I I think my ambition was, she was both my fuel and my kryptonite. And I think that, all she wanted was to live closer to Ventura Boulevard. That was the great divide between, it was like the hills and the hills not. If you lived in the hills, man, you were something. If you didn't, you lived where the housekeepers lived. We lived where the housekeepers lived. So, my path to Hollywood was I didn't even want to get to Hollywood. I just wanted to live in the hills. Probably something like that. Anyway, I went to school. I helped, much like one of the characters in my book, I helped a boy I was deeply enamored with. I helped him get an agent. I realized there was no science to it, that people put their fingers in their mouths to see which way the wind was blowing. And I understood that passion speaks. And I was passionate. I was passionate to get the yes. So I worked a whole summer before going to college to get him an agent, and I finally did. And he ended up getting little roles for a while. I thought he was going to be, chiseled into the Mount Rushmore of Hollywood. And then he dumped me. But I never forgot how good it felt to get the yes. And when I graduated college, I remembered how good it felt. My dad was a salesman who taught me that you have to really believe in what you're selling. And then you have to connect. You have to figure out a way in. And I guess the ambition of my mother and the drive and tenacity of my father formed and informed me. So there you go.
Hey, listen, you know what? I love the honesty in the story. We're all driven by different things, our emotions, our connections to our families, and what we idealize our lives to be, right? So I love the honesty in your story. Let's talk about this fictional story. The story is set in the 1980s agency world. Okay, so there was no misogyny in that world. There was no male chauvinism in that world, of course, right, Elaine?
As I like to say, there's a lot of blow and blow jobs, and you can't judge these women. I don't even know if you can judge the men through the prism of 2025. It was the world. People say to me, "How did you do it?" And when you're facing terrain like that, you just do it. You look at the mountain in front of you and you begin to climb. You don't judge it. If you judge it, then you're playing the referee in the games down the field, right? You can cry foul, but you won't be in the game. And the characters in my book wanted to be in the game, and I wanted to be in the game. So, and the terrain that I was faced with was, yeah, incredibly misogynistic. Some of the guys, not all of them, they called it was, you wanted to be a sexy Terry if you could. But if your wiggle was more waddle, or you were too loud or too smart or too ambitious, you had to figure another way to get that job. As one of the characters in my book had to figure out a way in, because there was the three women that really are at the center of this book, there's no straight line for them. So they had to leverage every opportunity, metaphorically, in heels.
Okay, so there's Beanie, Mercedes, and Ella. Those are the three women. Who is
Yeah.
Elaine the most like? Are you the most like Ella?
Oh, thank you. No, I am probably Beanie. I am probably most like Beanie. I mean, I guess they're all a little bit like me and not, but Beanie is closest to me because Beanie was also born in the Valley. Beanie um, was driven, all three of these women were sort of shaped by their mothers. Beanie wanted to please her mother. Ella was repelled by her mother, who was an ex-debutante, who believed that separate was equal. And Mercedes sort of became her mother. In other words, she leveraged every opportunity trying to find a rich man to protect her. And each one of them, the shadow and echo of their mother informed their trajectory. I probably was like Beanie. Though her path wasn't mine. Um, Beanie did work for a misogynist. Beanie was introduced to cocaine, and a lot of porn, and and she worked for a guy who very much did not want her to succeed. She knew too much. She was too smart. So while that wasn't me, it was a lot of people that I knew. And so I sort of, the ability, fiction, gosh, I posted something on my Instagram the other day. I can't remember the quote now. It was something that through fiction, you're able to tell the truth. I'm going to find that quote because it was such an amazing quote. Fiction allows you to turn left, right? The quote is Camus, and it's fiction is the lie through which we tell the truth. And I think it allowed me the ability to tell people what it was like in the 80s, especially for women who weren't the Angie Dickinson in the Rat Pack. They weren't one of the guys that they could hang out with that didn't threaten them. And it also allowed me to turn left and invent things. And there are a lot of facts in the book and a lot of fiction.
All right, it's summer, and let's be honest, there's nothing worse than tossing and turning in a hot room, sweating through the sheets like you're on a bad cable news hit. I've had those nights, and they can be miserable, which is why Cozy Earth's bamboo viscose sheets are a game changer. These sheets are temperature regulating, incredibly breathable, and they help you sleep several degrees cooler. I'm telling you, the first night I slept like a baby. No heat, no humidity, just cool comfort. Cozy Earth even gives you a 100-night sleep trial. So try it during the hottest stretch of the year. If you're not in love, send it back. But trust me, you won't. Upgrade your summer. Go to CozyEarth.com and use code OPENBOOK for 40% off best-selling temperature-regulating sheets, apparel, and more. Trust me, you'll feel the difference the very first night. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, stay cozy. I find that fiction is probably the best pathway into understanding humans because of what you just said. You've got the license now because it's fiction to tell the truth in the story. And so when you're
Well said,
climbing in
Anthony. Well said.
heels,
Hmm.
but I think it is, and that's the reason why I love fiction. I learned so much from fiction. Think of William Shakespeare, how much he teaches us about human behavior. But I want to
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
climbing in heels for a second because I think your life is that, right? You climbed in heels, and you took the obstacles in front of you without victimhood. Even if you were being victimized, you shed the idea of victimology, and you just kept going. And I think the message is something that should resonate today. How should that message resonate today in 2025?
Well, it seems to be resonating. They're calling it the beach read of the summer. People are young. What's interesting is young women are reading and going, wow, the 80s seem great. And
Right, right.
yeah, I guess so. And people who are older are reading it and wryly smiling. I mean, yeah, again, it's that metaphor. You can play the referee, you can say foul, but you're missing the game. So you kind of have to look at whatever obstacle is in front of you. This is how I would translate it for now.
Well,
And I would
so
say, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I want you to react to this. Okay, so I live in Manhasset. This is a suburban town, and every woman in this town watches Yellowstone or did watch Yellowstone. And because there's macho alpha men kicking the shit out of each other in Yellowstone, and there seems to be a shortage of that sort of electricity in our society now. We seem like we have muted those people. So I feel like people that are reading your book and watching Yellowstone, there's something there to that. What is that? Am I missing something? Is there something there sociologically?
Well, it's so interesting that you called Yellowstone that. When I think of Yellowstone, I think of that character who's Costner's daughter, who's kick-ass. I mean, you can't kill her. She's the Terminator. You know,
Right.
they run her over, they
Mm-hmm.
burn her up, they blow her up. She just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
die, and she keeps going, and she keeps smarting and outsmarting them. So when you say Yellowstone, I think, yeah, there's sexy men in there, but there's this kick-ass woman in there. Um, I guess, yeah.
Well,
I mean, I think
I
that the
think there's
people,
both. I think there's something for everybody in there. That's your book, isn't it?
that is my book. My book is about navigating the waves on a beach and understanding that if you get knocked down, you stand up and you try again. You might try differently. You might wear a life preserver. You might try differently, but it's about life is really about the climb. It's, for those who haven't read it, I don't want to ruin the ending, but it really is the ascent rather than the destination, all of those cliches. And these women in the book um, are strategic, and they have to be. I think we all have to be a little strategic when we're faced with the unexpected daily kind of eruptions of life, right, Anthony? I mean, I look at you and your career, and you have an interesting, amazing career that you couldn't have planned, right? My mentor, a woman named Sue Mangers, said to me years ago. I mean, she's sort of the model for Sheila Day in my book, one of the most powerful agents in the world. And she would say, honey, my career wasn't planned, it just happened. And I think much of life is about embracing what's happening and the reactions we have to it. Um, because none of us could have predicted the trajectory. But if you have the desire, like the women in my book do, to leave their footprint in heels, then go for it. Because here's the truth. The only thing stopping you is you. If Anthony, if you want to write a book, if you want to write a screenplay, if you want to become an actor, do it. The only thing stopping you is you. And it took me a long time to understand that. I was a top agent in the 90s. I was a big time agent. I represented a lot of movie stars, a lot of women, Julia Roberts and Jennifer Lopez and Madonna and Susan Sarandon, a lot of, and men, Spike Lee, Tim Robbins. And I, I, and Nicolas Cage, I was good at it, but it wasn't all I was good at. I was a writer and I was afraid to tell people, especially my clients, that that's what I wanted to do as well, even though being a storyteller made me a better agent. And you have to find the way to your ambition and you have to allow yourself to do more than one thing. Who says that we should make a decision when we're 20 and that's what we should be doing when we're 50, right? I think you're finding your way to your multifaceted career, Anthony, and I think it makes you more interesting. It makes your path more interesting.
I wanted to be in Hollywood, Elaine.
You
I didn't
did
have the
so
balls,
come to
Elaine.
Hollywood. Just come to
Yeah,
Hollywood.
yeah,
You're not
I didn't
dead.
have the balls. Yeah, but yeah, no, but I just want you to know that when I was a kid, that's what I wanted. But I was anxious about money, so I went to Wall Street. You know why I went to Wall Street, Elaine? Because that's where the money was. It's like Willie Sutton with the banks, right? I knew if I just had a middling career on Wall Street, I would be rich enough to take care of my parents. That's literally the simplicity of the thought process of my career.
But play the record out, Anthony. Okay? You're not dead. You're a thriving, huge, well-spoken personality who's done
Will you
so
be my
many
agent?
things.
You'll be my agent. Help me
We
get some roles.
what? Oh, you wanted to act? Is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, of
When
course. Yeah, I wanted to be a James Bond villain or something like
Oh,
that.
oh, oh.
Yeah,
See,
yeah, of course.
you could have taken the path. You could have taken the path to Hollywood after you made money and took care of your parents. You could have moved them out west, like in your parallel universe. You move them out west. You've got money, so you can bankroll a movie. Then you could have done your own movie and starred in it.
Right. Well, that's why I got my son. I bankrolled my son in his movie. That was the key for him. He said he got his first short film in Tribeca. You write at the
Good for
beginning of this
him.
book. You're pulling a quote, and when I read your book, I was like, oh my god, this woman. I mean, I don't know you, but you make us like fall in love with you because I'm going to read this
Oh,
quote. I want you to react to this quote. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster, Elaine. For when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you. Now, that's Friedrich
yeah,
Nietzsche. And of course, I read that in the mid
yeah,
80s. And Oliver
yeah.
Stone put that on Wall Street One, by the way. I don't know if you remember that. That was in the screenplay.
No,
That was Michael
no.
Douglas said that he won the Academy Award. He said you got to be careful when you're staring into that abyss. You could become that. Okay, and I've lived my life. If you took that and you took Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and you put both of those in the fly machine that we put Jeff Goldblum in the 1980s, you fuse those two ideas. I didn't want to be Jacob Marley. I wanted to be the reformed Ebenezer Scrooge, charitable, and I didn't want to stare into the abyss of the greed on Wall Street and become that. And you did that in Hollywood. Okay, so how did you do it, Elaine?
Yeah. Well,
By the way, that's a
listen.
huge
Uh,
compliment, by the way, and I mean that because
Thank you.
I mean that you've done that,
Thank you. Thank you.
and you
Thank
deserve
you.
credit
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you. What I like to say is, look, this book is about friendship and survival and betrayal. It's about standing up when they pass you by and saying, I won't quit when they want you to quit. But it's also about how some of those women become very much like the monsters they worked for. And I think it's about forgiving them a bit. Um, You hope you're not monstrous. You hope you can be better than the generation that came before. And if you are, you have to correct. I think that life changed with Me Too. I think that they shined a giant light on the outrageousness um, that was allowed um, in the Hollywood that you wanted to go to. It was outrageous, Anthony. It was, Harvey Weinstein wasn't the exception. He was the rule. How did he
Mm-hmm.
exist? There were
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of him. He just kept going and and continued. And somebody was smart enough, and I certainly applaud Ronan Farrow um, for shining a light on it. So now I think there is a big
Mm-hmm.
the entire world is watching itself. Um, I'm not talking even about
Mm-hmm.
the outward monstrous behavior. I'm talking about the monsters inside, the entitled narcissists who are desperate to hang on to their power and their youth.
Okay, so when I close the book and I look up and say, okay, what did I learn from the book? I learned that you can keep your integrity and you can climb in your heels and step over and around things and dodge and weave and have a successful career. It's not a perfect career. No one's career is, but you can survive if you keep your compass together. Is that what I got out of the book?
I like that you got that out of
Was
the
it?
book, and I like that you forgave the women because I don't know that they always make the right moral choices or by other people's standards, but they did by their own
Oh, but the
compass.
men make all the moral choices, Elaine.
Well, look, some of the men were quite decent in the book, and
Yeah, exactly. But I was just saying that you think the men don't exactly.
yeah, I think that I here's what I would say. Yes, do the very best you can with the terrain that's in front of you, and 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 enjoy the climb. I think as you close the book, Anthony, what you recognized is, especially with Beanie, she had summited, right? And sometimes sometimes as
Mm-hmm.
you look back, when people say they miss the hungry years, it's the climb, it's the people you meet along the way. Take note of them. But more than anything, I guess if I want people to take anything away from the book, I think I think they're going to enjoy the read. It seems to be the beach read of the summer. People are loving it. Um, and taking a page from my book, it's never too late, Anthony. You want to go to Hollywood,
All
go to
right,
Hollywood.
I look at. I've got a lot of skin
It's a
products going. You're
beautiful face. It's and
trying to stay moisturized, Elaine.
you took
Trying to
care
stay
of you took
moisturized.
care of your parents, you financed your son. Now it's your turn. See, and that's what I think.
All right, I hear you.
I think these women found the way to the careers they wanted, and they weren't always planned, right? And that's what climbing in heels is about. I mean, they're saying it's little valley of the dolls. It's a little steamy. Did you find it steamy, Anthony?
Loved it. I loved it. Let me tell you something. Okay, everything about it is inside the dark channel in our minds, right? I mean, come on. We are all a little like this, whether we want to admit it to ourselves or not.
Thank you.
Even the most Puritan are a little like this. All right, so listen, I'm going to change this up on my producers. What I usually do is I end the interview with 5 words. And then what I ask the author to do is I'm going to say the word and you respond to it in a sentence or two. Okay, but I'm going with 10 this time because I think this is so interesting. And some of them are people. And so you don't have to get too detailed. I'm going to say the person's name. You give me a sentence. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
What are you going to say? I say Jennifer Lopez. You say what?
Jennifer Lopez, I would say, um, limitless. I mean, if anybody inspired
Mm-hmm.
me, Anthony, it was Jennifer. She
Yeah.
encouraged me to not be afraid. I've been writing under pseudonyms, and I'd been writing uncredited for years, Anthony. And I was too afraid to stand in my truth as a writer. I thought people would judge me or they wouldn't want to work with me as a producer. I was afraid. So she was the one who said, stand in your truth. This was a dancer who became a singer, a dancer who became an actor, who became a singer, who became an international brand. And she empowered me to do it as well. There's a lot of actors who want to sort of hold their fame to their own chest. And she said, you've got to live your dream. That's who she is. So I'm her producing partner. Right?
I don't know if you caught what I don't know if you caught what I said. I don't know her. I've never met her. She seems incredibly likable, and somebody like me, growing up the way I grew up, identifies with her. I have a soft spot for her.
Yeah, no, I did hear that.
That's just me looking at her from a distance.
You know, it's funny. I don't know how many actors, she's my producing partner, would have said, look, you go off on your book tour. You know, you do you, who would have held me on her shoulders the way she did. I think that's quite extraordinary. I do. Knowing actors like I do.
So let's go to these last.
Okay.
Let's go to these last couple. I'm going to have you repeat a few if you don't mind. Okay. I want to start again with Beanie Rosen.
I'd say Beanie has survived her mother, her father, a misogynistic industry, and found her way to her ambition. She is a survivor.
Mercedes Baxter.
Mercedes learned from her mother, who she thought was her sister, how to leverage opportunities to find a safe harbor, and ended up doing that.
Ella Gaddy.
Ella Gaddy was so busy fighting tradition, wanting to find her own way and her own voice, and really believed rules were for sheep, and she never wanted to join a flock, so she started her own.
Okay, this is the last one. I'm going to give you the final word. Elaine Goldsmith Thomas.
A work in progress.
The best days are to come, Elaine? The
best days are to come. The best
days are ahead?
Yes. Here's what I want to leave you with, Anthony, if you can hear me. We don't only live once. We live every day. We die once. So every single day is a second chance to go to Hollywood, Anthony, to make your dreams come true. The best days are right now.
Yeah.
Now, when you fly to London tonight, remember that.
I'm going to come talk to you about. You're going to be my career coach. You're going to be my career coach.
You got it. You got it.
The title of the book is "Climbing in Heels," a novel. It is a phenomenal beach read. There's so much going on in the book, but it's also allegories about human behavior and understanding the different channels in our minds. And I really tell you, I love the book. And I wish you great success with it. And I'm sure you're going to get a TV deal out of this book and other things. It's just that good.
Oh, Anthony, thank you. Let me just add this. We have a TV deal. I'm writing it with Darren. I'm writing it with Darren Starr. We sold it. We have 10 episodes on the air on Peacock already. So there you go. Maybe that's your acting role.
I gotta check it out. But you say it's 10 episodes. You haven't debuted it yet. You're in the process of
we're writing it.
Writing it. Okay, good. Yeah, well, there you go. I can play. Trust me. I can play a misogynist chauvinist from the 80s.
There you go. Me. Okay.
I lived there. I've been there. Okay, just something to keep in mind.
I see it now.
You know, John Hamm. John Hamm is John Hamm, that big, tall, handsome son of a bitch, is unavailable. Okay, you need some Tom Cruise size actors. I'm your guy.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. Lots of love, Elaine.
If you had gotten earlier on in your life those two little Donald Ducks that are on your shoulder, the angel and the devil, if the angel had prevailed, then you wouldn't be in these pickles right now.
Well, Saul,
you got to learn.
live and learn. I'm telling the truth.
We got to stop canceling people. I have flaws in my personality too, Blake. I'm not sitting here. What did Jesus say? Right? Throw the first stone if you've not sinned. I'm not a perfect person.
The trouble is that both sides of that pendulum, Trump and the anti-Trumps, are both cancelers. We've always done that. We've always canceled people, and we have to stop.
Welcome to Open Book. I am your host, Anthony Scaramucci, joined today by my co-host. My co-host today is my great friend and former professor, Saul Gittleman, the former provost of Tufts. And so, Saul, it's great to have you on as my co-host. And we are joined by our guest, Blake Bailey. Now, Blake is a best-selling author. He's got a new book out called Canceled Lives, My Father, My Scandal, and Me. And this is a great segue, if you don't mind, Blake, because Saul and I interviewed you for your book about Philip Roth, who is somebody that I studied under Saul's tutelage just about 40 years ago.
Yeah.
In Saul's class, I think it was called Introduction to Yiddish Literature.
Culture. Yeah.
And Saul had written a book called From Shtetl to Suburbia, which is still on my bookshelf here in my office here, Blake. But it's great to have you back. So before we get into the book and your other work, tell us a little bit about your background. And then we're going to get into a very deeply personal book called Canceled Lives.
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for having me. And it's good to see you guys again. 4 years ago, my Philip Roth biography was published. I was Philip's only authorized biographer. I spent a lot of time with Philip for the 6 years before he died. And the book did quite well when it was first published. Cynthia Ozick, of all people, called it a narrative masterwork on the front page of the New York Times Book Review, and it debuted at number 12 on the nonfiction bestseller list, which is pretty rare for a 900-page literary biography. But people were angry about certain revelations about Philip Roth in that book. And there was a lot of media stuff about canceling Philip Roth. Then there were a couple of reviews, most notably Laura Marsh's in the New Republic and Perul Siegel's in the Daily New York Times that were quite harsh and accused me of being sympathetic and even complicitous with Philip Roth's bad behavior, with his alleged philandering and misogyny and so forth. Long story short, that led to people digging around in my private life, and some stuff got out, some of it true, some of it absolutely untrue. And before I knew it, I was roundly canceled. My publisher, W.W. Norton, pulled the Philip Roth biography, had it pulped. It has since been reissued in various editions by Skyhorse, and Skyhorse is the publisher of the book under discussion that's just been published, Canceled Lives.
So I'm gonna let you take over for a second. The book is awesome. I know we both went through the book, but why don't you start with some of your questions, Saul?
Me. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Let me start out with a few statements, if I may. Blake is arguably the finest American literary biographer of the 21st century. I don't think there's anybody writing in the English language in this country who, on the basis of the books that he's written so far on Richard Yates, John Cheever, Charles Jackson, the Roth biography, and the James Salter one that come, that corpus puts him ahead of James Atlas and probably also Harold Bloom. I mean, when you're talking about literary biography, by this time, right, as you look back over the last 25, 30 years, Blake is in a class by himself. He is arguably the best American biographer of literary biography in the world. So I think that I came to that point after just reading all of the Roth book and then the four other biographies. They're simply superb. He's an excellent researcher, meticulous scholar. The awards that he was nominated for are not gratuitous. He is arguably the best we've got writing in the English language. Also, after reading about the episode, what happened with him in the Roth biography, I am totally opposed to any cancellations at all. I think cancellation was simply a bad idea when it happened. It continues to be a bad idea. And I have only a certain tolerance for despicable geniuses. We were talking before we went online. I really don't like Richard Wagner as a human being, and I don't even like his music. But you have to give him the right that he's been enormously influential, and I'm not going to cancel him. You are not going to sandblast Thomas Jefferson's face off Mount Rushmore. Thomas Jefferson, slaveholder, Sally Hemings, the whole sordid case of him sleeping with the slave women, that's fact and that's history, and it's not going to go away. It's evidence, but still, we're going to honor him. D.W. Griffith, Birth of a Nation, scurrilous work. The Klansman, terribly racist movie, arguably one of the great American movies. You cannot live to understand American film without understanding Birth of a Nation. Leni Riefenstahl, a Nazi monster woman, a woman of such despicable influence, was a genius. So you can't study Nazi film, you can't study 20th century German film without dealing with the phenomena of Leni Riefenstahl. And you can add Ezra Pound, you can add T.S. Eliot, vicious anti-Semites, nasty guys, swine if you want. They were literary geniuses and shouldn't be canceled. That's simply a fact. And so cancellation is intellectually dishonest. Even if you are a monster, even if you're a rotten human being, you do not cancel literature. You don't cancel Blake Bailey. So, having said all of that, there were times that I wish I hadn't read Canceled Lives. There were a couple of moments there that for me were dicey. And as I said to Anthony, we were talking before we went online, for all my students, you pay for 4 and you get the next 40 free. Once a student, always a student. And Anthony will be nothing for me for the rest of my life. I'm getting to the end of it, except a student. He will always be a student. I'll always be teaching him, and I always will keep a certain measure of distance between us. From your own mouth, the things you said in Canceled Lives about those 7th and 8th grade students that you were teaching, those women, that you never got them into your bed until after they had graduated and they were much older, I still can't buy that. That's not, for me, as a lifelong teacher, acceptable behavior.
I agree.
Having said that, that's all I need to say. I believe your work should be permanently in the books and never canceled. And yet you made a couple of ethical moves that bother me.
They are meant to be disturbing, and they're meant to bother you. My aim in writing this book was not to whitewash my conduct. It was to clarify what I did and what I did not do.
And you did help me understand why you chose the subjects you chose, the writers that you wrote. You go toward people with problems.
I do indeed. We all have them. What I wanted to clarify in the book was that I indulged in some bad behavior. And I did sleep with some former students, generally a long time after they were my students. I have never in my life.
And never no longer your students.
And yes, I understand that. But for what it's worth, because I was accused of sleeping with my students while they were my students, I was accused initially of assaulting 8th grade girls. Okay. I have taught students as young as 11 and as old as 98, Norton Geralt. And unlike Philip Roth, I never laid a glove on anybody while they were my student. Usually this
I
was
accepted none of their charges, by the way, of
years
that
later,
early
years later,
that
when
I
they
just,
were no longer legal minors and it was consensual. What I wanted to deny in this book vehemently was I did nothing vicious or illegal. I was accused of rape by two people, and I try to reasonably and non-invidiously address those accusations in the book, say exactly what happened. I think non-titillatingly too. I'm very clinical and I think objective about my descriptions of what actually happened with those people. So, it's one thing to be a philanderer who sleeps around on a wife that, in my case, I adored and respected, and break my daughter's heart. I did those things, but I did nothing vicious or illegal. I did not rape
no,
anybody.
I accept
Not
that.
consciously
I,
groom
I
anybody.
accept that complete description, except if you had listened to me earlier
There you
before
go,
we met,
Saul.
actually. Yeah,
I hope, though, you found my book to be contrite about, what I
oh yeah,
did.
yeah. I don't think you understood your own fault in one, at least in that context. As I just said again to Anthony, if you're once my student, you're always my student. And when you said when I read in Cancel Lives, I did not sleep with them until they were consenting adults. I can't accept that.
No,
That's only my own
it's
prejudice, my
bad
own
behavior,
narrow-minded.
and I,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I emphatically
yeah.
describe it as such in the
But
book.
I will not accept somebody's description of you as a semen-soaked star of Roth's 32nd book. No, you let yourself get out of
That's the
control.
tablet piece, and I was
Yeah.
actually rather pleased by it because, you know, look, this is important. When I first tried to respond to my scandal in the summer of 2022, okay, I published this book's predecessor, a previous version of this book called Repellent. And it was also about my scandal. And when I tried to publish that book, it was quashed by the Philip Roth estate for reasons that we needn't go into and that I'm not allowed to go into. But it was quashed. But when its Amazon page first appeared, it immediately blew up into a big media story. Everyone said, "Can you believe it? Blake Bailey, this detestable scumbag, is presuming to defend himself." And I was astonished. The people seemed angrier by my impulse to defend myself than they'd been by what I was accused of in the first place. Because what they want you to do is, put on your sackcloth and ashes and wander off into the desert and get pecked by birds. And I'm not going to do that because, again, I did nothing illegal and I did nothing that I think is truly vicious. And yes, I think the Philip Roth book and my other books deserve to exist.
Oh,
Picasso.
that goes without saying.
People
All of
you
them.
mentioned, these are odious people. They did odious Alice Munro, for God's sake. But they are magnificent writers, and I'm going to keep looking at Guernica, and I'm going to keep reading.
That's where I've come to.
I'm going to keep reading.
But Despicable Genius is, Byron. But the ones that always got me were Yeats, not Yeats. Yeats was an anti-Semite too, but Eliot and Pound. They should have been both taken out and shot. Particularly Ezra Pound after World War II. But the American literary world couldn't do that. Instead, they declared him insane, put him in St. Elizabeth's madhouse in Washington, D.C., and then let him out after that.
Where he won the Bollingen Prize.
Bollingen Prize. Then he goes back to Italy, and the first thing he did was do the fascist salute. He never changed.
Well,
Town never changed.
anyway, so this book, this book I tried to publish in 2022 was greeted with total outrage, and
What, Cancel Lives?
3 years later, the culture has changed somewhat, because this time I have been met with contemptuous silence, and
You'll be
that is
also
why
met by
I'm
some
so
people who
great.
say,
I'm sorry, Saul.
with regret, the canceled movement partially is responsible for us getting Donald Trump. Because
Yeah,
the cancel movement,
I agree.
cancel movement went too far.
Yeah, no,
The cancel
he's the
movement
pendulum swinging the other way.
went too far.
Right. No question.
Yeah, and I didn't know what to expect when I faced the publication of this book. What I will say is that I would never make a public statement to the effect that these women are what they say about their rape accusations are unambiguously false, and here's why. I would never put myself out like that, because, it's inviting, a mob of torches and pitchforks on my lawn. Were
The
it
only
not,
way you could have escaped, the only way you could
I
have
could have escaped out the
if
back
you had
window.
if you had gotten earlier on in your life those two little Donald Ducks that are on your shoulder, the angel and the devil, if the angel had prevailed, then you wouldn't be in these pickles right now.
Well, Saul,
you got to learn.
live and learn. My point is that,
you have 30 years
I put myself out there because I'm telling the truth. And it's not a self-flattering version of the truth. I did some bad things, as you have roundly established.
It's very real. It's very real. It's very raw, and it's very honest. And I think the reason why we wanted to have you back on is that, to Saul's point, we got to stop canceling people. I accept I have flaws in my personality too, Blake. I'm not sitting here. What did Jesus say, right? Throw the first stone if you've not sinned. I'm not a perfect person. And Saul, believe me, knows more than one of my flaws, which I've shared with him. I mean, and I've made my mistakes politically. I've made my mistakes professionally and personally. I guess the thing that Saul's getting at, and I guess that where the reason I wanted to have you back on is, where do you go from here? What is the lesson when you close that book? Okay, you're a great author, you're a phenomenal writer, and you're writing to a reader. What is the lesson that you want the reader? The reader is closing the book, and they've just learned something.
Which one? Canceled Lives?
Canceled Lives. What do you want that lesson to be from Canceled Lives, Blake?
Well, I mean, had I to do it all over again, at one point in the book, I examined my behavior. Most of this behavior was 20 plus years ago. And that doesn't excuse it. But I look back on that person that I was, and I simply don't understand what the hell I was doing. I was deeply unhappy for various reasons. My brother had just killed himself in jail. And my Yates book, which was a critical success, was about to come out. And meanwhile, my publisher kept passing on all my subsequent book proposals. So I felt like, all this hard work was for nothing. And I engaged in some bad behavior, which I would never, ever, ever repeat, given the nonstop ass stomping that I have gotten over the past 4 years, and given my own evolving sense of right and wrong. That said, my literary biographies of Philip Roth, of John Cheever, Richard Yates, and Charles Jackson, all these people were extremely flawed human beings.
That's what I got mostly also out of Canceled Lives. How you found these people.
Philip Roth, when he taught at Penn in the 70s, he would have his friend Joel Canero, who was the dean. And, when Philip's oversubscribed class, when someone would try to get off the waiting list and get into Philip's oversubscribed class, they would have to go through Joel Canero. And Joel Canero would vet these people, these women, for comeliness and susceptibility at Philip's behest. I never did that. That's why people were calling for Roth to be canceled after my biography was published. My point is there is a vast discrepancy between someone's public face and what's going on in their private life.
Anthony, have you read The Plot Against America?
Yes, and also saw the movie. In fact, you may remember this. You recommended that book to me. It's got to be 20 years ago.
Yeah, and it came true. I mean, if there was only one person that could beat FDR, it would have been
the Lindbergh story is the Trump story.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect from this book. And as far as Trump is concerned, when he was reelected, I thought, well, this can go either way. I mean, a man who has been civilly convicted of sexual misconduct has been reelected president of the United States amid many other alleged misdeeds. Either that means the culture is changing, not necessarily for the better, but it may also mean that there's going to be this all the more virulent backlash against me, as for my past sexual misbehavior. Again,
no, I'm not sure of that.
For the most part, the response has been a contemptuous silence. The publicity I've done for this book has consisted of a wonderful interview on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, almost 3 hours long, review in the now defunct, I think my review killed it, New York Journal of Books, not to be confused with the New York Review of Books, a piece in Tablet, a piece in Unheard, and a couple of other minor.
I don't think your legacy.
So I'm thrilled to be here and to be able to say my piece. I'm sorry, Saul, go ahead.
I don't think your legacy is going to be canceled lives. Your legacy is going to be your biographies. You are a brilliant biographer. Your autobiography, I don't need to know all of that about your family. I don't need to know all about that about you. I can tell you privately and to your face now, you should have comported yourself differently. But when it comes to finding the right biographer, to put together a literary biography, you and James Atlas, I thought were in the same class, but you're prolific. You are you're just the best that we have in the nation, and you cannot be canceled.
Well, Saul, that's very, very generous, but I do need to sell a few copies of Canceled Lives.
Yes.
So help me out.
Less problematic.
I won't have a future as a writer if I don't.
You got problematic people that you write about. You write about uncomfortable people.
Which, by the way, I think is a good book. It has the virtue of brevity. It's not going to, take up a lot of your time, and it is absolutely truthful from beginning to end. And look,
I'm going to say something generationally, Blake, because I think you and I are from the same vintage.
Yep.
And Saul is probably from our dad's generation.
Yep.
So for me, having 5 children that range in age from 32 to 7, I think your book is worthwhile because Saul is right. His generation doesn't want to hear all that detail, but the generation that you're talking to that's younger than Saul's probably wants to hear that detail. Again, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but I think that there's messages in the book. And what I got from the book was, I think that you are contrite in the book. But what I got from the book, though, is a cautionary tale about boundaries. My boundaries have been flawed in the past. And Saul knows I grew up with a very tough dad. He was a blue-collar worker, beat the living daylights out of me and my brother. And it manifested itself in different ways, which I've tried to curb some of my excesses as well. But what I got out of the book was you were out of control with your boundaries.
Exactly.
You've reined it in. And this is a cautionary tale for people to think about their lives where they may be overstepping a boundary somewhere, rein it in. You're going to live a more prosperous, more healthy, more mentally aware, more self-aware life. I think that was the message of the book. And so I'm proud to have you on. And I agree with Saul about your writing. I think the Philip, he read the others. I have to confess I didn't. I've read Canceled Lives, and I read the Philip Roth book cover to cover. I was influenced to do that by Saul because he introduced me to Philip Roth, who was masturbating in his baseball glove, I think, in Portnoy's Complaint. You know what I mean? So I'm like, all right.
Baseball glove,
right?
Yeah,
and by the way, he describes the semen is smelling like buttermilk and Clorox, and this is something I read 40 years ago.
But it's all worth it. But the plot against America.
You can't. That's
why he was our greatest living novelist.
Yeah. So to me, this is, I guess what I would say to you, go forward, sir, in your life and write, and go forward in your life. And you're always welcome on this podcast with your books, because we are bibliophiles on this podcast. And Saul is right in what he's saying, but I'm also think that you did the right thing by writing the book, because
there's no problem with that.
You have to stop the canceling, right? If Trump is too far of a pendulum going back the other way, I'm hoping we can get to the middle part of the swing.
The trouble is that both sides of that pendulum, Trump and the anti-Trumps, are both cancelers. They both want to cancel.
That's the irony of it.
That's the irony of it, guys. That's not the First Amendment. 100%. It's not what America. It's what America used to be. It was always that way. I remember growing up with Banned in Boston. We've always done that. We've always canceled people, and we have to stop. Pornography, that's something else. But the stuff that Blake is writing, that has to be part of the American canon.
Well, okay. Look, what is at the heart of Canceled Lives is the same basic theme that's present in my biographies, which again is sort of the vast difference between a person's public image and their private lives. Can I talk a little bit about why my father features so large in this book? The subtitle is My Father, My Scandal, and Me. My father, Burke, Saul, I think you two are pretty much exact contemporaries. You're 91. Yeah. My father would have been 91. He died 7 months after my scandal blew up, and the sheer dizzying horror of what happened to me hastened his death. The reason my father is particularly germane to this story, he was regarded within his profession as a kind of real-life Atticus Finch. He was the best trial lawyer Oklahoma has ever produced. Say your no relativistic things about Oklahoma, but still, he was president.
You think he was as decent as Atticus Finch, at least in the movie?
Pardon me?
Do you think he was as decent as Gregory Peck portrayed Atticus Finch?
I'm coming to that. My father was apart from his abilities as a litigator, was foremost known as a paragon of ethical conduct, of graciousness, of wit and courtesy within the profession. He won an ethics award. That's what he's primarily known for, as being an ethical paragon within his profession. However, Saul, in his private life, my father was very freewheeling, very philandering. My parents had an open marriage. My mother was no slouch. I would come home, there would be drag queens singing torch songs, there would be drugs, etc. So you'll agree there was a great
through, and open marriages, you got children that you're responsible for.
Right.
I may be a Puritan. I'm a Puritan. I am a Jewish Puritan. Once you have children, you are going to be responsible for a great deal of other people's lives. And you philandering, drugs, all that stuff, keep it out of it. And
this is why
you wrote very effectively. He came through loud and clear, and I didn't like him that much.
You didn't like my father in the book? No, I get it.
There were times that I said, "Don't do that. Your deportment stinks."
Well, my father changed, and he divorced my mother. He remarried a woman who I did not get along with, and he became much more puritanical in his private life. Again, he was always a lovely man in his public conduct, and you can't sham that altogether. It wasn't a sham. He's a lovely guy. If you met him, you would likely adore him.
The only way I met him is through your writing.
But it is possible, again, to be sexually wayward, Saul, and to be a person of the highest ethical ideals otherwise. That was my father.
As long as you're not involving other people, particularly your children.
There you go. And I'd like to think if my daughter were here, she would tell you that as a father, I mean, this is why all this was so shocking to her. I mean, it almost destroyed her, as you can imagine. Because she never saw any of this in my paternal conduct. I mean, I was doting. I almost never raised my voice even. We had a wonderful, and still have. We have survived this, and we have come out the other end. Again, you know, my father, there was nothing wrong with him as a father. And, you know, when my scandal blew up, it could have gone either way. My father was a lovely man, but he was very judgmental. And he might have said, look, kid, you know, you made your bed, sleep in it, etc. He said those sort of things to me many times. But he did not. He said, you know, I love you. I'm with you. Tomorrow will be better than today. And then he died. He went into rapid decline after that. But he kind of saved my life. So that's why I include my father.
He'll always be your father. That's okay. He always will be your father.
Well, yeah. And in most ways, Saul, he was an extremely decent human being. It is possible to be sexually wayward and to be decent in other respects.
That's a value judgment. You can argue on another podcast.
All right. Well, I mean, the half hour went by very quickly. So Blake, I'm going to give you the last word. We got about 90 seconds left in the podcast before my advertisers will edit the goddamn thing. So I don't want that to happen. So you get the last 90 seconds. Go ahead, Blake Bailey.
I was hoping you would give me a cue word like you usually do. And
all right, well, let's talk. I'll give you a cue word. The word is canceled. Give me the cue word.
Me. Okay. Yeah, me. And again, you know, I did some things that I regret. I wrote about them in the book. I hope that you'll get the book and find out what I did and what I didn't do, and weigh those one against the other. And possibly then, after I've sold a few of these books and I can go on and write about Jim Salter and keep having a career, you'll read my other books and learn about other interesting people who did good work and who were flawed as human beings. We're all flawed as human beings.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Well, I think that's ultimately the last word. I think you're a brilliant writer, and I want you to sell books. And so I want people to go out and buy Canceled and read it. I think they'll learn from it. I think there is a cautionary tale in there. I do appreciate you writing it with the level of authenticity and the honesty that you present in the book.